South Korea is now one of the countries with the highest level of gender conflict in the world. If in Japan young people adopt a Zen attitude, trying to deal with tension passively, in South Korea the situation is completely different. It has turned into a full-blown gender war fought in the name of political correctness. During the last Olympics, one case caught public attention. A female archer who won a gold medal was attacked online simply for having short hair. Male netizens accused her of being a feminist and demanded that she return the medal. Many were shocked. How can you attack a champion who brought pride to the country? But a closer look at the comments revealed something even stranger. The men attacked her because they thought she was a feminist, while those defending her did so by saying she wasn't a feminist. See the pattern? No one was debating whether feminism was good or bad anymore. They were only arguing about who could or couldn't be called a feminist. Why did the word become so rejected in Korea? To understand that, we need to go back about 10 years. Just like in Japan, there was once a time when Korean men and women walked together toward a modern future. Urbanization, economic growth, and the ideal of free love created an atmosphere of optimism. It was in that context that Korean feminism emerged, preaching independence and a break from traditional roles. At first, many men supported the movement as well. But history followed the same script as in Japan. China's rise weakened Korean industries, unemployment grew, and internal competition, the so-called involution, exploded, especially after the 2008 financial crisis. As the job market became a survival game, men and women began to turn against each other. And, as in Japan, women lost ground. But something even more extreme happened in Korea. Radical feminism gained power. Groups like Megalir, founded in 2015, appeared. They began by addressing sexual harassment and workplace discrimination but soon shifted to promoting radical ideas, campaigns against male babies, hate speech, and even violent attacks on men. In extreme cases, women stabbed random men on the street or took selfies holding knives to their fathers' necks while they slept. National heroes were attacked simply for being men. In terms of radicalism, Korean feminism came to be seen as the most extreme in the world, surpassing China, Japan, and even the West. But the biggest mistake was choosing the wrong enemy. Instead of targeting big corporations and power structures, these groups turned their anger toward ordinary men, who were also victims of the same system. The result? Men fought back, and became radical too. But unlike in Japan, where men simply checked out of society, Korean men decided to fight back using the same weapon, political correctness. For example, if a photo showed more men than women, feminists would call it gender oppression. Instead of responding rationally, men's groups would reply, "Yes, it's discrimination, take the photo down immediately. But if there are more women than men, then it's discrimination against men." They started demanding absolute equality in everything, every show, every image, every statement. Any difference was labeled discrimination. And so, political correctness became a weapon against itself. In everyday life, this led to absurd situations. On dates, if a woman suggested that the man should pay more, he would answer, "That's gender discrimination." TV programs began being analyzed frame by frame. No jokes about women were allowed, but neither were jokes about men. Entertainment began to lose its life, and women themselves started realizing they had less and less content to enjoy. Another example, harassment laws. Complaints about inappropriate messages led to the banning of any form of flirtation via text. The so-called 3 attempts crime appeared. If a man showed interest 3 times and was rejected, he could be accused of harassment. At first, many women supported it. But soon, they realized the law benefited men, it eliminated persistent romantics, and men began to say, "I don't want to risk a crime. If she says no, it's over." Romance disappeared. Women complained, 3 attempts are too few, it kills the magic of love. Men replied, "So you want more chances to be harassed?" Feminism lost control of the narrative, and men began to occupy the moral high ground. This even divided women themselves. The most attractive and successful ones continued to be approached, while average women complained that men were no longer interested. For men, unity was simple. Everyone preferred a system that spared them effort and risk. Men's groups took advantage of the moment and attacked feminism at its weakest point, marriage. While feminists denounced marriage as a tool of oppression, men replied, "We agree. So why do you still want to get married?" Thus began a kind of competition, to see who wanted marriage the least. Women believed they would win, since it was commonly said that men had a greater need for marriage. But the result was the opposite. Men truly stopped wanting to marry. The explanation is economic. In a country where living costs are sky high and wages stagnated, marriage became a burden. Family pressure is the only remaining reason, and feminism, by destroying traditional norms, also removed that obligation. Men realized that staying single was financially better. When women accused them of being cold and unmanly, they replied, "Perfect, then you don't have to marry me." The logic flipped completely. Now it's the men who reject marriage the most. And those who still want it end up being ridiculed. In the end, feminist movements realized they had lost their social base. The gender war shattered the old alliance between young men and women. Men accepted and adapted to capitalism, while women remained trapped between feminist ideals and social reality. At work, if there are few women, it's called male oppression. If there are many, it's because men are incompetent. Either way, men are always the target, so they think, if we're going to be blamed anyway, we might as well have more power. Inspired by Japan, many Korean men adopted the motto "no marriage, no dating, just work." And so, South Korea sank into a spiral of isolation and emotional coldness. Women were left with no room to respond, and the gender war became a battle where no one wins. But the worst was yet to come. The gender war in South Korea didn't stop at online discussions or social movements, it infiltrated every aspect of daily life. In universities, companies, families, and even political campaigns, everything began to revolve around the issue of gender. The environment became so polarized that any statement, even a neutral one, could be interpreted as an attack on one side or the other. Politicians soon realized that this division brought votes. They began to use the rivalry between men and women as an electoral strategy. Parties and candidates created specific agendas to attract angry young men or outraged women. The result was predictable. The country plunged even deeper into fragmentation. The internet turned into a battlefield. On forums and social media, male and female groups organized themselves like cults, with their own symbols, codes, and jargon. On one side, communities like Men's Solidarity, made up of young men frustrated by job insecurity and social pressure. On the other, radical feminist forums that preached the elimination of men as a path to liberation. Both sides saw the other not as opponents, but as existential enemies. And while the two groups attacked each other, the real problem, economic inequality and worsening living conditions, remained unsolved. Young Koreans, regardless of gender, faced low wages, expensive housing, and suffocating competition. But instead of uniting to demand structural change, they started blaming each other for their misery. The social consequences were devastating. South Korea's birth rate plummeted to the lowest in the world. The number of marriages dropped sharply, while the number of people living alone reached historic highs. Cities are now full of one-room apartments occupied by men and women who have given up on building families. The government tried to intervene with policies encouraging marriage and childbirth, but nothing worked. Trust between genders was completely destroyed. Korean men and women no longer see each other as potential partners, but as enemies on a minefield. In public spaces, the atmosphere is one of mistrust. Many men avoid talking to women, afraid of being accused of harassment. Companies hesitate to hire young women for fear of workplace accusations. Mixed social events have nearly disappeared, even at universities. Parties are now separated by gender. The most tragic part is that this hostility is no longer just social, it has become emotional. The new generation of Koreans is growing up without positive examples of affection between men and women. In TV dramas, music, and online forums, love is portrayed as a trap, marriage as a prison, and the opposite sex as an enemy. South Korea, a country that in just a few decades rose from poverty to the technological top of the world, is now collapsing from within. Not from a lack of money or innovation, but from a collective emotional breakdown. Radical feminism destroyed empathy between men and women, and reactive masculinity turned love into war. And while both sides keep fighting to prove who the real victim is, the country is running out of future. Young people no longer want to marry, have children, or even get close to one another. They just want to survive, each in their own corner. And so, ironically, the society that once preached gender equality more than any other has created the deepest divide between the sexes. South Korea has become the mirror of a global dilemma. When the pursuit of justice turns into revenge, and the language of freedom becomes a weapon, everyone loses.
The gender conflict in South Korea has long ceased to be a simple battle of ideas. It has become a social identity. Many young people today define themselves first and foremost as anti-feminists or feminists, and only afterward as Koreans. Social media is full of profiles dedicated exclusively to attacking the other side. There are videos, memes, false accusations, coordinated campaigns, all meant to prove that the enemy is the one truly responsible for the country's decline. Men blame women for living off privileges, for not serving the country, and for using feminism to escape responsibility. Women, on the other hand, accuse men of being cowardly, lazy, misogynistic, and emotionally immature. Each side isolates itself in its own bubble and creates its own narrative, and any attempt at dialogue is immediately seen as betrayal. Amid all this, a new generation of young people has simply given up on participating. They don't call themselves feminists or anti-feminists, they just watch the chaos with indifference. But that indifference comes at a cost: emotional emptiness. On the streets of Seoul, more and more people walk alone, wearing headphones, with distant expressions. Cafes are full, but conversations are rare. Relationships are short, disposable, and almost always marked by distrust. The market quickly adapted to this new behavior. Dating apps multiplied not to connect people, but to sell a temporary illusion of companionship. Hotels offer loneliness packages, where you can spend an entire weekend without seeing anyone. Companies rent fake boyfriends, girlfriends, and even families for social media photos. South Korea has turned loneliness into a product. Meanwhile, the birth rate keeps falling. The government has launched desperate campaigns from cash bonuses to tax breaks for couples who have children. But financial incentives don't work when the problem is psychological. Young people no longer want to get involved. They carry fear, resentment, and a weariness that goes far beyond the body. It's the exhaustion of living in a country where every gesture can be seen as an attack. Korean society is divided between two deafening voices. One cries out for equality, the other for revenge. And in the middle of it all, the voice of reason has been lost. The result is a technologically advanced but emotionally broken country. A country where robots make deliveries, but people no longer trust one another. Where there's an app for everything except curing loneliness. And perhaps that's South Korea's harshest lesson for the rest of the world. When the fight for rights turns into a gender war, society doesn't progress, it fractures. No side wins, because love, respect, and empathy cease to exist. And without those three elements, no nation, no matter how rich or modern, can survive for long. What remains is a generation of young people who no longer believe in love, no longer trust others, and live in a world where even a smile can be misinterpreted. South Korea, once a symbol of progress, has become the portrait of a silent collapse. Not an economic one, but a human one. Share your thoughts about this dilemma in the comments and let others know your perspective. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. See you in the next one.